Welcome back to Embracing the Fight, the space where we talk about healing, growth, leadership, and what it really means to keep showing up, especially when the journey gets heavy. I'm your host, Erica Lamar. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would click like, comment, and subscribe to Embracing the Fight on TikTok, Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. The only difference on Instagram is Embracing the Fight _. Now that I've gotten the business of everything out of the way, let's jump into today's episode. Today's conversation is personal, it's real, and I know it's going to hit home for a whole lot of you. We're talking about the loneliness of success and the unspoken pressure that comes along with it. How people try to guilt trip you into sharing your success. How people think that once you've made it, you're responsible for saving everyone else. And how, in the middle of all that, you're still trying to solidify your own position. Because let's just be honest, truth, success is fragile if it's not protected. So if you've ever felt isolated at the top, pressured by your family or friends, or torn between generosity and self-preservation, this episode is for you. So let's get into it. What we need to do first is truly define, the loneliness of success. We talk about, the grind, the hustle, the climb, but nobody ever really talks about what happens when you actually start winning, when the money comes in. Success can be lonely. When you're building, you've got, people cheering you on. And when you're struggling, people can relate. When you start succeeding, when you start breaking those generational ceilings, making real money, creating impact, you truly realize how many people understand your journey. Some people celebrate you, others feel threatened, some disappear, and then you got those that show up with those expectations, and suddenly your circle, it gets smaller. Loneliness in success isn't just about having, fewer people around. It's about not being fully seen or understood in your new reality. You're dealing with higher stakes, bigger decisions, heavier consequences. You're often expected to stay the same, give the same, and carry the same emotional labor for everyone else. And that's when it starts. You know what I'm talking about. Guilt tripping and that emotional pressure. So let's talk about guilt. When people know that you're doing well, some assume, right away that you owe them something. You start to hear things like, oh, you remember when I did XYZ for you? Or, must be nice. Or, you know what? You made all that money. Better not forget where you came from. Or, you've changed. Or, if I had your money, I'd help everybody. What they don't see is the sacrifice, the risk, the nights you stayed up, the failures you absorbed, the emotional toll of leadership, of forging forward. Guilt tripping is often rooted in security or insecurity, fear, or unmet expectations. But that does not make it your burden to carry. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to set boundaries. Success does not automatically make you a public resource. That's why they had a Red Cross. And generosity should be a choice, not a demand placed on you. Once you make it, you're supposed to save everyone. That's a myth. So That myth comes because families and communities that have struggled with you think that once you make it, you're really supposed to lift everyone else out of it. Sure, it sounds noble, it sounds loving, but it's also unrealistic and dangerous. Why? Because you cannot rescue everyone. You can't bankroll every dream. You can't fix systematic issues all by yourself. Sometimes people expect you to become the solution to decades of generational challenges and choices. Now, community uplift is important, but self destruction, it isn't philanthropy. You can't pour money or you can't pour anything from an empty cup. You can't build a legacy on unstable ground. So, your first responsibility is to stabilize your success financially, mentally, emotionally, and structurally. So, let's do a little bit of a deep dive into success, guilt, and public, pressure. So, I want to get extremely raw here because there is something people truly don't like to admit. Success can feel like emotional warfare. You become, a headline. You become a conversation, then a family debate, then a community expectation. So recently I watched what was happening, with GloRilla, how her own family publicly questioned why she isn't financially supporting everyone. People start pulling up her net worth, they start counting her money, deciding what she owes. The narrative became, you made it. Why aren't you saving everybody? And that's when I felt it, in my spirit. Because people don't see the contracts, the taxes, the management fees, the obligations, the pressures, the instability of entertainment income. They don't see that, being a millionaire on paper doesn't mean infinite liquidity or infinite responsibility. They see a headline and they think it equals unlimited capacity. And that's where the loneliness of success comes in. You could be celebrated by millions and misunderstood by the people closest to you. You could be breaking, generational curses and still being accused of abandoning your generation. I mean, how do you manage that? You could be trying to build a legacy and then be accused of being selfish because you're trying to, put some to the side for your family, your children. Let me tell you, public pressure truly hits different when it comes from your own people, your own family. There's nothing more painful than being seen as a resource instead of a human being. Just know this, you don't have to shrink to be loved or accepted. Let me say that again and let me say it more clearly. You do not have to shrink who you are when you become successful. Somewhere along the way, I don't know what it was, but we were taught that celebrating success is bragging, that visibility is arrogance, and that joy should be hidden to keep others comfortable. But success is not something you whisper about in shame. It's something you acknowledge, something you honor, something you truly celebrate. You worked for this, you sacrificed for this, you prayed, you cried, and you pushed through just for this. So, guess what? It's okay to celebrate every milestone. Celebrate. It's okay to post those wins. It's okay to sit in gratitude and joy without apology. Shrinking yourself doesn't protect others, it just erases you. And why would you want that? Just know that the people who truly love you will not ask you to dim your light so they can feel brighter. They will help you to shine a light. And that, I hear a lot of stories, about wealthy and successful people when it comes to finding love. And one thing that stands out is this: many of those relationships start when the other person isn't fully aware of who the rich person really is. For instance, they meet by chance, before the public success, possibly. Sometimes they meet by circumstance before the world sees the scale of who, they become. And that can create tension. When you become successful, people often fall in love, with the idea of you, not the reality of you, the lifestyle, the access, the status, the potential. But not everyone falls in love with the pressure, the responsibility, those long, long hours, the emotional weight, and the constant decision making that comes with success. You're constantly calling, you're constantly texting, people are constantly trying to get to you. That's why so many high achievers talk about loneliness in relationships. They're known but not deeply understood. They're admired but not fully seen. True connection happens when someone knows your story. They know your fear, your values, not just your net worth or your achievement. And sometimes that kind of love finds you in ordinary moments when you're not performing, not proving, not producing, just being. So as you grow, ask yourself, self, who knows the real me? Who loves me beyond what I can provide or what I can produce? Who is committed to me, the person, not the platform? Because real love, real partnership, and real friendship should expand you, not shrink you. So from that point, you have to protect your success without losing your soul. So solidifying your position means, building walls and bridges. Walls to protect your peace, bridges to uplift others sustainably. You're allowed to say no. Remember, no is a complete sentence. You're allowed to prioritize stability over generosity. You're allowed to choose strategic giving instead of emotional giving. You're not a bank. You're not a savior. You are not a government program. You are a person who has worked hard and deserves to enjoy the fruit of that very labor. And guess what? Sometimes the loneliest part of success is realizing that the people who love you might not fully understand what it costs to be you. Success is not just about reaching a milestone, it's about sustaining it. Solidifying your position means building systems, not just income. It means creating boundaries around your time, money, and energy. It means investing in legal, financial, and mental health support. Saying no, even when it feels uncomfortable. It means it. It means you don't owe everyone access to your resources. You don't owe everyone your labor. You don't owe everyone your peace. Imagine if you were to give all that stuff away. Where would you be left with? True wealth includes stability, security, and peace of mind. And sometimes, protecting your success looks like disappointing people who had unrealistic expectations of and for you. And guess what? That disappointment, they'll get over it. They will be just fine. Because guess what? They were fine before you were rich. So let me say this clearly again. You don't have to shrink who you are when you become successful. You don't. You don't have to sit back and look at everything and decide, who you want to pretend to be. Be yourself. Let your success speak for you. Don't get it caught in the traps or the throws that tell you that you have to bring everyone else up because you have become successful. And let me give you a personal story. When I was working, as an engineer and as an operation manager, I was, bringing in a pretty good salary. And I was surrounded by, successful people. And then as I started to move around, I started meeting, different people outside of my circle. And I started trying to help and do all of these different things. Well, when I got cancer, and then when I eventually, lost my job, it was like, you know, where are all these people? Because all these people that I had helped, that I had given money to and done, amazing things for them to help them forge forward, they were gone. They all disappeared. Some of them, when I see them now, they'll cross the street and almost get hit by a car rather than think about giving me the money back. But I was taught a lesson in that. You can't save everyone, regardless of how well you're doing, if you don't truly solidify your position. And now I'm in the stages of rebuilding. And rebuilding has shown me that once I get success this time, it's going to be solidified for generations to come. So when people try to make you feel guilty about your success, know this: they don't truly love you. They love the idea of you. And that's not something that you should even, allow into your space, because it is a blessing to be successful. It is great. It is amazing to be successful because there's so many people that have never tasted success. Sure, you can be a mentor. Sure, you can, try to help them, but that's only if you have time and space for it, because you can also experience burnout. So, in this episode, I hope that you found some things that could truly help you deal with the loneliness of success. I know I only spoke on it for a second about, getting mental health support. That is the key. You have to be able to talk about the things that are truly driving you up the wall, the things that are beyond you, the people who want you to overextend, the people who are constantly coming to you to get money, to get things from you, and they're not pouring into you. As I said earlier, you cannot pour out of an empty cup. So please take heed to the words in this episode and solidify your success. And anything that you can do, to help others, let it be voluntary, not feeling obligatory. Thank you so much, you all, for watching this episode of Embracing the Fight. And as always, I want you all to have an absolutely amazing day.